What is the key role of South Africa's Competition Commission? And do the three competition regulatory authorities work in harmony? What are the main causes of price fixing and tender collusion? Why are school uniforms supplied by specific suppliers? What time is it? It's question time. Hello and welcome to the show. My name is Mpotse Edu. The Competition Commission is empowered by the Competition Act number 89 of 1998 to investigate, control and evaluate restrictive business practices, abuse of dominant positions and measures in order to achieve equity and efficiency in the South African economy. While the Commission is the investigative and enforcement agency, the Competition Tribunal is the adjudicative body, and the appeal court considers appeals lodged against the tribunal. Currently, the Commission is set to investigate allegations of price fixing, market division, and collusive tendering in the automotive industry. But how common is unfair business practices in the country? Before we go into our discussion today, let's firstly look at this insert.
South Africa's capacity to create decent jobs, as well as ensuring that every citizen is food secure, continues to be a debatable issue. This is somewhat compounded by the business sector's action or inaction in assisting the government achieve its goals and objective. Of interest, though, is the mandate given to the country's Competition Commission to promote and maintain fair business competition and practice in order to promote employment and advance the social and economic welfare of South Africans. While the competition regulatory authorities comprising of the Competition Commission, the Competition Tribunal, and the Competition Appeal Court are functionally independent, they are also administratively accountable to the Department of Economic Development. Key among the Competition Commission's cases was a 2007 99 million rand fine on Tiger Consumer Brands for fixing the price of bread. Meanwhile, the Commission is said to be part of other international probes launched to investigate inflated prices and collusive tendering within the automotive industry. The cost and supply of school uniforms has also become one of the most contentious issues.
That was Nandine Dlazi, one of our producers. Thanks to her. My guest today, Mr. Thembinkosi Bonakele, the Competition Commissioner. Welcome to the show.
Thanks.
Well, some of us may know what the Competition Commission does. Just break it in simple language, not what I read out, that legal jargon, which is basically what the Act say. How do you affect the life of an ordinary person?
Well, with competition comes choice. So let's give you an example. If you only have one spaza shop selling bread, that spaza shop will determine the price at which you buy the bread.
Yeah.
And even if the quality of the bread is poor, there's nothing you can do about it. So what competition gives us, as soon as you have the second spaza shop, then the other one will think about the other when they set the price.
Okay.
So the prices will tend to be fair, and you will have choice as to which spaza shop to go to. And the quality as well tends to improve, because the other spaza shop may now also decide that I want to add a little something into my spaza shop so as to attract my customers.
Yes.
I want better quality bread, I want better tasting bread, and so on. So in a nutshell, that's what competition authorities are there to look after.
Do consumers really, and I mean really in honesty, have the right to choose?
Yes, certainly. Every time we go shopping on a Saturday, we are choosing. We choose which supermarkets we go to. Even when we are inside the supermarket, we choose which brands we want to buy, which products we are going to buy. But, there is obviously consciousness that is required sometimes, because people are not always aware that they have this choice and they can exercise it wisely.
So how do you then investigate this restrictive business practices?
Well, we have various means. There is what we call price fixing and collusion.
Yeah.
These are frankly just like criminal conduct, where people get together secretly in order to fix the price.
Okay.
So there you have processes that are very similar to the criminal justice system. You investigate, and sometimes you even get one of them to confess, and you give them immunity, like what we call state witness, so they can tell on the rest of the cartelists. And then there's much more sophisticated investigations on things like abuse of dominance. If you have one firm and they charge excessive pricing, that becomes a lot more complicated. You need to get economists who are going to model what a fair price would have been if there was competition, and whether there is economic value that's related to the price. So that's a much more complicated case. But essentially what we have as the competition authorities are lawyers, investigators, and economists who are watching over markets. People can complain to us, and we go and investigate.
So your small and medium-sized businesses, can you ensure that they have equitable opportunities?
That's one of our key functions. You see, if you don't have competition, then it's going to be very difficult for new players to enter and grow within markets. Let me give you, again, an example. We did a case some time ago in bread. One of the large bread producers in a small town of Mossel Bay was engaged in what we call predatory pricing. What that means is they would charge their product below their production costs in order to kill a small producer, because as soon as the small producer dies, then they can put up their prices and recover whatever they had lost. So a part of the punishment, if you like, that we meted over that company was to say, create a small agro-processing fund within the IDC to help many other small players to enter the market.
Okay. Now, you see, I would want to understand if this would trickle down to the day-to-day life of an ordinary person somewhere. Because, for instance, in the township, you've got lots of spazas, as you have said. They are, in some cases, dominated by Pakistani nationals, Ethiopian or Somalian nationals, whose prices are very low compared to what your local nationals would be selling for. And their argument is, we buy in bulk. South Africans do not buy in bulk, they buy as individuals. Is that not collusion?
It could be. We do have such instances where people get together, a buyer group, that could be a collusion. However, I must also mention that when small players want to get together in order to bargain against a bigger supplier, we sometimes grant them exemptions. So people can do that, but they need to be open about it, come to us, and we can help them. So those small spaza shops in the townships, if they want to be a buyer group, like SPAR is nothing but a buyer group. They are free to approach the commission and say, we want to get together. In fact, we want to encourage this because they are not really competitive as individuals against the large buyers. The processors and sellers of food are very concentrated. They are very large. And so if you want to bargain with them, sometimes it is necessary to get your small and medium enterprises to get together. So we encourage that. In fact, we think that if Somalis are doing that, I think South Africans need to learn how to assist one another as small businesses.
Okay. Hold the thought there. When we return, let's talk about the Competition Commission, the tribunal and the appeal court, how you're working together there. This question time, please don't go away.
should marijuana be legalized in South Africa or not?
The legalization of dagga is a no to our country. Look at the rate of rape in our country because of people that
But you can't say dagga makes people
that
get
are under
raped
the
then.
influence of dagga.
When a young man comes to you and says, I'm having a problem with dagga, do you send him to jail?
We don't send them
Then
to
you already concede that you agree that prohibition is not the answer, Mr.
because
Panga.
our aim is to help them.
As is ours.
It is you helping them by giving them dagga. How are you going to control this? Just give me a chance. Because if you cannot control it now, as the CYP of South Africa, we say no to the legalization of dagga. No matter what you study, no matter what you tell me, I say no.
Watch Newsroom with me, Eben Janssen, weekdays at 9 a.m. on the SABC News channel.
The shortage of nurses places those nurses who are working under such pressure.
To have one registered nurse looking after a ward full of patients, of over 40 patients, is unreasonable.
But Africa has made tremendous progress. In the year 2012, there were only 50,000 children. 50,000 children too many, but only 50,000 children that died of measles in the whole of Africa, compared to 330,000 in the year 2000.
For all your health issues, join Dr. Sello every Saturday, 9 to 10 a.m. CAT.
Welcome back. You're still watching Question Time. My guest today, Tembinkosi Bonagele, the Competition Commissioner. Now, you've got the Competition Commissioner, the Tribunal, the Appeal Court, the tripartite. How do you work? Because it would appear you take a decision, the others say no, we don't agree, take it back.
Well, it's the checks and balances in the system. Oftentimes, we work very well together and we reach the same conclusions.
Okay.
The Commission is pretty much like the police and prosecutors of the system.
Yeah.
We go out, we find the criminals, if I may use the word, we investigate and prosecute them.
Okay.
And the tribunal is the judge. So a judge can sometimes agree with you, sometimes it won't. And if people are not happy with the tribunal decisions, they can appeal to the Competition Appeal Court in the normal way.
Okay.
Sometimes we're not happy. I mean, the tribunal in the South African breweries case, SAB case, distribution case, we ran a case we thought was fantastic. The tribunal said no.
Okay.
So
whose word is final here?
It's the court system, ultimately, is the Constitutional Court. So the court of final instance on competition matters is the Competition Appeal Court. But in exceptional situations, such as where there is a constitutional matter, parties can take matters up to the Constitutional Court.
So tell me, what legal recourse does a consumer have in the event of unfair business practice?
Unfair business practice may arise from many other things. You know, sometimes people come to us saying that the insurance didn't pay out.
Yeah.
That may be unfair, but it might not be a competition issue.
Yeah.
The best way is to approach the competition authorities. Come to us, report the case. We will screen it. If we find that there is a competition issue, we will then investigate it substantively. You don't have to pay a cent. You don't need a lawyer to do that. You just come and give us the information. If we find that it is not a competition issue and there is another body within government that can deal with it, whether it's a consumer commission or any other ombudsman, we can then refer it to such people. But the best way is for people to come to us. Let me give you, again, an example. This case of uniforms was brought to us by a parent.
Yes.
So it's those type of things that we are able to pick up. We pick up very interesting cases from individual consumers. The bread price fixing case was brought to us by a bread distributor in the Western Cape.
Mm-hmm. Now, perhaps let's just go into that case. How do you allow a situation where a blazer costs 2,000 rand, a shirt will set you back another 300 rands, whereas the same shirt you can get from the township for 50 rands, and you can get the school logo or label, get it stitched there, and you have the same shirt basically.
You've just illustrated what happens when there is lack of competition. Because the schools, what happens is they are creating the school as like a market, and then they only have one supplier. Now, in that captured market for this supplier, it becomes a monopoly.
Yes.
And as I have explained, a monopoly can charge the price that it wants. And it doesn't mean that the quality is better either.
Correct.
So we really, in this case, one of the key things we're trying to do with this case is to educate members of the public and schools, school governing bodies. When a principal comes and says there's only one supplier, you've got to ask the question, why must I only buy from this supplier when there are many other shirt makers out there, shirt sellers out there? So there's we spoke earlier about consciousness. The consumer needs to be conscious that you have a choice. And if somebody restricts your choice, you then have to question that. If you're not getting satisfactory answers, go to the authorities. Go to the Competition Commission and say, is this fair? Is this not anti-competitive?
Yeah, but how quickly are you likely to act if I have a problem of that sort?
It depends. Sometimes just by voicing this thing in public, with this school uniform thing, the whole country is talking about it now. The school governing bodies now are talking about whether what they are doing is fair or not. The prosecution may come much later, I agree with you. It may take time. But we want people, the important thing is that the conduct must stop.
Okay.
There must be change. And sometimes by voicing these abuses in public, sometimes it's not even abuse, people are simply not aware. We did a similar thing with graduation gowns with universities. Universities would only have one supplier to supply graduation gowns. And the administration no longer was not even conscious of this, was not aware. It was not abuse, strictly speaking. It's just that it had always been done this way. Now, most universities, we went to them and said, open up. Anybody who can make a gown must make a gown. If you have requirements, you can put your specifications that this is the type of gown I want. But to create a monopoly and say every graduate has to go and buy or hire gowns from the same person is a problem.
But aren't the schools or universities benefiting out of this?
We've picked that up as well, that there is a bit of a perverse relationship that you do find. And not everybody is aware of this. Some people may be aware of it, the principals, often some members of the governing board. But if you were to ask parents that for this donation that you are getting of 50,000 from this store every year, is it worth it that all of you are overcharged? And you might give it a different answer. So that's why public awareness is very important. Parents need to be able to ask these questions.
Let's talk about the beer only after the break. This is question time.
There's an explosion of studies showing that cannabis causes or is related to schizophrenia.
I have been using cannabis almost daily for the last 30 years.
If it had no side effects and it had no harmful effects, we wouldn't have been sitting here.
If cannabis was going to cause me brain damage, I really don't think that from a personal point of view that I would be sitting here today.
The fact is that you cannot just do what you want.
Watch Newsroom with me, Eben Janssen, weekdays at 9 a.m. on the SABC News channel.
A huge part of this African growth is technological innovation. Governments here are working hard to ensure that the continent's technology matches that of more advanced countries.
High-speed internet connectivity is regarded as a utility.
As the continent battles diseases like Ebola, social media becomes the preferred method to share information.
People on social media are some of the society's most influential.
To find out more, join me, Phumelele Zondi, on Network every Sunday at 7:30 p.m. only on SABC News.
We really know the hype is about the new and how about the new cabinet will actually perform. But what role should then the media be playing at this critical stage?
I would hope that the media will give the newly appointed people a benefit of the doubt.
Has the media lost its respect in this regard? We want you to tell us.
The many factors that are hidden from the public in terms of this ought to be brought out by the media.
Watch Media Monitor with me, Alicia Jali, Sundays at 9 a.m. only on the SABC News channel.
Welcome back. You're still watching Question Time. My guest today is Thembinkosi Bonakele, the Competition Commissioner. Now, perhaps before we go to talk about beer, let's just finish off here. Do churches fall under your mandate, whereby you find that you can only get uniform from a particular...
You like churches. Everybody who is doing trade, who is selling goods or services, in South Africa is under our jurisdiction. So it's not so much the church, but the seller of the uniform is subject to our jurisdiction as well.
So I can meet you somewhere, in some church, trying to investigate why certain uniforms are only sold or made from a particular outlet.
Hopefully the people who are leading in churches would, from these investigations that we are doing for schools, also pick up that it's important to give your people choice. You don't want to abuse your people. It's this issue is very, very important for very basic products. Everybody has got to think about that.
Okay. Now let's talk about beer. 1.85 billion administrative penalty for South African breweries. You lost it.
I've said there's checks and balances in the system. We still believe that we've got quite a strong case. The tribunal thought that our case was not as strong. We have appealed the case to the Competition Appeal Court. In fact, I was in a hearing last month. This case was heard. So we are awaiting judgment of that court. We think that there is an inherent unfairness with what SAB does. This case is about distribution.
Yes.
And they are restricting what their distributors can do. So you are distributing SAB products. They impose all sorts of things. There's a resale price you can sell their product for. They are restricting you on what either brands you can carry. And we're saying they have nothing to do with that. Theirs is to sell beer. And if people are distributing it, they don't have to control that market. Anybody can distribute whatever product that they feel they can and should distribute. So we think that it's a right case that we are pursuing. It might be beer, but the precedent, it's so important across the economy.
Okay. Let's talk about the price fixing and tender collusion. I mean, there was a huge case involving your construction industry, in fact, where I don't know what happened to that matter. Perhaps you can just update us as well, where your major construction companies were basically colluding to say this is, the price which we put up there, and then we can come and work together.
Yes, we've ran a project there where we were encouraging them to come and settle with us. And frankly, it's because the contracts were just so many. We would take years investigate, and in fact, we will have to shut down everything else we are doing and just do construction. More than 300 projects were involved. So we had to devise a plan to say, come to us, tell us everything you've done, and we gave them discounted penalties. So most of them have taken advantage of that, and we said, those who don't come and settle and set the industry on a new path, those will face prosecutions. And we are now at that stage. In fact, we will be issuing a decision very soon on prosecuting the cartel that was involved with the stadia, the construction of the World Cup stadia. Many of them didn't settle that case, and it's a case we are going to be prosecuting, so watch the space.
How much did you make out of that?
Well, the state made just under 1.5 billion on
just
that.
On that case alone?
Just on that case alone.
Where does this money go?
This money goes to National Treasury, to the fiscus.
I see. And the bread matter?
The bread matter was very important for us. In fact, it's what gave us a lot of publicity.
Yes.
In this case, we got a Western Cape bread distributor 1 December, just before Christmas, who noticed that he got letters from bread makers, all the major bread makers in South Africa, 3 of them. They were going to increase the price by the same day, by the same amount. So he was immediately suspicious, and he alerted us to that. And the rest is history.
Okay. Thank you very much. Wish you all the best. I hope that all this collusion will stop sometime soon. That was question time for today. Follow us on Twitter. Our Twitter handle at questiontime24. Our email address, questiontime@sabc.co.za. And you can follow me on Twitter as well at Mpotsedu. That was it for today. Have yourself a wonderful time. Goodbye.